Hi, everybody. I'm with Bryan Hanson. Bryan is the Assistant Director of the Werner Institute at Creighton University School of Law. And I've asked Bryan to join the course here because in our discussion of different contexts of mediation, contexts in which mediation is practiced, Bryan is very, very experienced in mediation in the organizational context, a unique, special, and important context in which mediation is practiced. And Bryan, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, great to see you, Noam. How you doing?
Great, always good to be with you. Bryan, what can you tell our students kind of in an intro to the world of mediation in organizational context? What can you share?
Well, the organizational context is a wonderful arena to bring the mediation process to help people engage in the issues that are impacting their day-to-day work life. We spend a lot of time at our work and with our work teams, and like every other domain in our life, conflict, of course, will start to, creep in there and can impact our comfort, our enjoyment, and ultimately our productivity in the workplace. And typical dispute resolution processes that are based more on an adversarial approach may not be the most appropriate or most constructive manner to engage in the conflicts that impact us during our work day.
Right, because we're going to have these conflicts with the same people who will continue to work with us tomorrow and the next day and the day beyond. So even if we crush them or they crush us today, there'll be a next round the next.
Exactly. And we have to work with these people on a regular basis, or if they're maybe in another department, we might rely on them to carry our work through.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of importance on that interpersonal relationship and that ability to work together. And in the organizational environment, when you have competing resources, you have shortages of time, there are all sorts of elements that are just ripe for creating conflict. So being able to have a process available for people to engage in it in a constructive manner is going to help them maintain those relationships by allowing people to share their perspectives, to understand where the other folks are coming from, what their interests may be. And so you can collaborate together and work towards overcoming the issues that are impacting the work that needs to be done in a way that really finds mutually satisfying solutions to those issues.
So how does it happen? I mean, I've worked with all sorts of corporations. And they did not have someone on their organizational chart called mediator. So how does this come to be?
Correct. And there's a lot of organizations that do not see the value in this type of constructive process, or just don't understand how to integrate it into their organizational workplace. So there's ways you can do it. The HR is typically, when people think of conflict, they think, well, I need to go to my HR department, which in times can be helpful if there are certain serious cases like discrimination or instances where you feel that your right as an employee is being infringed upon. But other organizations are developing departments or roles to help people navigate through the options that are available when conflict arises. An ombudsman is an example of that type of role within some organizations. Another process that is typically set up within organizations that understand, we need to help provide an opportunity for our employees to engage in conflict, but don't have a robust system, will typically train their managers or train somebody that is in that supervisory line that is known to be able to help people come together and have conversations in a more constructive manner than just the interpersonal negotiation that might take place from day to day.
So someone or some people who are kind of identified as kind of the naturals and the supervisors, people who kind of fill both of those roles are often tapped for training, and trainers come, outhouse trainers, I imagine, train them in these skills, and they incorporate them into their own skill set.
Yeah, and of course the dynamics can get complicated because there are pros and cons to those types of roles.
Sure.
You know, there's going to be fear to raise issues with your manager, of course.
Sure.
So that's how organizations might employ mediation internally. Often when an organization feels stuck in a conflict, or they see that there's a large amount of conflict emerging, they might call in a professional like you or I to come in and help diagnose. Oftentimes we're not coming in as mediators either. We're coming in to help consult and figure out what's going on here, where mediation might be a component of what we're doing.
Because when you're looking at an organization, sometimes the issue is solving a dispute between two people, just like we encounter in all sorts of other settings. But usually there's something environmental going on, and there's something structural going on, and these two people have rippled out into departments being at war with each other, or all sorts of things along those lines, which means it's some wider or more systemic treatment is needed.
Exactly. Often the interpersonal disputes are conditions developed as a symptom to some larger systematic issue that's going on in the organization.
Well, Bryan, I have around 3 follow-on questions that I want to ask you about that, but instead I'm going to keep my promise to myself and cut them off, because the purpose of this is really just to give a brief introduction here. This is what happens when organizations look at themselves and decide to either try mediation or commit to mediation. This is the type of action they might take, whether developing capacity in-house or bringing in an expert like yourself from outhouse and cutting it off here. So I'm going to do that. Thanks so much, Bryan.
You betcha.